Chairman, today we are living in a new era of American history, a golden age under President Donald J. Trump. There is peace in the Middle East, American businesses are thriving, the economy is roaring, law and order has been restored, the border is secure, and immigration laws are being enforced. God bless Donald J. Trump. Our allies respect us, our enemies fear us, criminals and terrorists and other bad actors recognize that they have no safe haven here, especially the bad hombres on the drug boats in the Caribbean. People around the world know that they can no longer exploit our laws, cross the border illegally, take advantage of the American people, and be rewarded with long-term residence in the United States. This is all a far cry from the absolute anarchy unleashed on the American people by the last administration. 2021, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris rolled out the red carpet for the entire world, opened our borders, watched terrorists, criminals coming in, terrorists, gang members, everybody coming into the United States. Come on, we're open. We predicted the results, even here in this committee. The Democrats were silent, or even worse, they were cheerleading the systematic destruction of our borders. When the Republican called out these obvious insane policies, Democrats accused us of racism and xenophobia. They said we were fear-mongering. When we proposed legislation to fix the problem, every single Democrat voted no. They voted no. The consequences were expected. Crime and destruction and chaos reigned supreme. After 4 years of Democrats' open borders, the American people were fed up. In a historic election 1 year ago, the American people spoke loud and clear. They elected Donald J. Trump and Republicans in the House and in the Senate on a mandate to make the immigration system work for America first. In 11 months, President Trump fully secured the border and actually began to enforce the immigration laws. Think about that, enforcing our nation's immigration laws. There's a lot of work still needs to be done. Millions of illegal aliens remain in the United States. So consider this. 3 months before the Joe Biden took office in 2021, the immigration court case backlog was 1.5 million cases, 1.5 million. After 4 years of border chaos and complete lawlessness, that backlog exploded to 4.2 million cases, nearly tripling in just one presidential term. That backlog is a direct consequence of the Biden-Harris border crisis. As the border crisis raged, the immigration courts received 1.2 million new cases in fiscal years 23 and nearly 1.8 million new cases in fiscal year 24, compared to 1.9 million new cases received from fiscal years 2015 through 2020 combined. The backlog is a key part of the Democrats' open borders plan to ensure that illegal aliens can remain in the United States indefinitely. That's what they want. Practically speaking, what does that backlog mean? It means that an illegal alien remains in the United States for years as they await a hearing before an immigration judge. Of the asylum cases that were adjudicated in fiscal year 23, only 14% resulted in an asylum grant, and only 12% of asylum claims granted in fiscal years 2024. So 12 and 14%. The other 87% coming over, they have no claim. They're just coming over. They're coming over and they want to stay here. They have no claim. Despite this, doomed cases languish in immigration courts for years, which incentivizes aliens to file frivolous applications, as they know they can remain in the United States for years and years to come. Who wouldn't take advantage of that stupidity? Well, millions have, and the American people are paying the cost. Just ask the families who have died at the hands of illegal criminal aliens, including those that are driving commercial trucks in our highways. Makes no sense. According to Democrats, if a foreign national stays in the United States illegally long enough, they suddenly become too sympathetic to deport. We're already hearing this rhetoric about aliens who came into this country during the last 4 years. They've lived and worked here for years, Democrats say. Well, of course they have, because Joe Biden let them all in and then didn't deport anyone for years. To my Democrat colleagues, let me make this very clear. An alien living illegally in this country for years doesn't mean that alien gets to stay here forever. It just means they should have been deported sooner. Should have been deported sooner. That's what this bill does. The Remove Act states that if you're here illegally, you must be placed in removal proceedings as expeditiously as possible. If you commit a crime that makes you more deportable, you must be placed in removal proceedings as expeditiously as possible. And once those proceedings begin, they must be completed within 15 days, 15. No more hanging out in the United States, committing crimes and taking advantage of public benefits for years while your fake asylum case is pending. No more gaming the system. You're an illegal alien. Your case is heard quickly, and if you don't have a basis to remain in the United States, you're deported, plain and simple. And that's what this bill does, and it's only common sense. Before Democrats falsely claim this goal is too lofty and too unrealistic, let me remind them about one of the Republican signature achievements from just a few months ago. Through President Trump's one big beautiful bill, the nation's immigration courts are now flush. They're flush with cash. They are funding to hire immigration judges who can hear cases more quickly. The one big beautiful bill also included new statutory fees for asylum applications and other commonly filed applications and appeals. Some of that revenue is directed back to the immigration courts. For maybe the first time in history of this country's immigration courts, resources are not the problem. This bill puts those resources to good use, America First use. Meanwhile, President Trump already has revived the failed courts after Joe Biden's destruction. President Trump's immigration court leadership finally empowered immigration judges to dispose of frivolous applications in which the facts clearly do not establish eligibility to remain in the United States. And we know that under Democrats' dream of open borders and limitless immigration, that immigration court proceedings aren't over until the alien wins. Imagine that. We got to do it in the ends when the alien wins. We're here to promote a different dream, one that prioritizes aliens with valid claims to remain in the United States and the American people. The Trump administration is already doing everything it can to ensure bad hombres are removed from the America's streets. The bill gives the president yet another tool to deport illegal aliens quickly by speeding up the legal process. The Remove Act injects common sense into the immigration system, and I urge my colleagues to support it. I yield back, sir.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Vermont, the ranking member, for an opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Jordan. I'll be reading the remarks for our ranking member who is still on the floor. The Remove Act is yet another Republican bill aimed at stripping away due process for immigrants. The bill arbitrarily requires that all immigration court proceedings last no longer than 15 days. This is a fundamentally unserious idea, completely divorced from the reality of our immigration courts. It would result in an immigration court system that lacks due process protections and prioritizes speed over fairness and justice. Given the current state of the immigration court system, it is not humanly possible to properly and fairly adjudicate removal proceedings in 15 days. Immigration judges are already dealing with crushing caseloads. Forcing them to adjudicate cases on a sped up timeline will only result in mistakes and incorrect decisions and will deprive individuals of their fundamental rights to due process. Immigration courts have long suffered from inadequate resources and significant case backlogs, but these problems have only worsened in recent years. Since 2015, the immigration court backlog has more than quadrupled in size and now sits at approximately 3.8 million cases. The Trump administration is also firing many experienced immigration judges and is seeking to replace them with temporary and inexperienced immigration judges. At least 139 immigration judges and court personnel have reportedly been fired, transferred, or have taken buyouts since January 2025. As of July 2025, there are only 685 full-time immigration judges. Although, as my colleague from Texas claimed, the One Big Beautiful Act, you said it meant that we are flush with cash in the immigration court system. It does provide funds for hiring immigration judges, but it caps the total of immigration judges at 800, which is far short of the number that is needed. Experts estimate that it would take 1,300 immigration judges to work through the backload over the course of a decade. Moreover, immigration law is considered by many to be the most complex areas of federal law, second only to the U.S. tax code. Individuals in removal proceedings may have a valid legal basis to remain in the United States, but no way to properly articulate this to an immigration judge without the assistance of counsel. In fact, according to a University of Pennsylvania Law Review study, only 5% of immigrants who won relief from deportation in the time period of the study did so without the help of an attorney. Imposing a 15-day requirement on the completion of removal proceedings is akin to denying people their day in court, which violates our bedrock principles of fairness and due process. It leaves non-citizens with little time to find a lawyer and leaves lawyers with no time to competently prepare a case. Today, it takes an average of 4 years for non-citizens to receive an asylum hearing, and final decisions can take much longer due to appeals. Now, those averages are way too long. We need to find a way to speed up the process while ensuring that it is fair and equitable. We must be able to determine who's eligible under law to stay in the United States and remove those who are ineligible much more quickly. But this bill, which provides no resources, no plan, and no process, is not actually a solution to the problem that we have. And I do not doubt or question the intent of Mr. Nehls in bringing forward this legislation. I think we share the goal of deciding these cases more quickly. But forcing immigration judges to decide complicated and consequential cases in a matter of days is not the answer. Rather, Congress should reform our immigration system and appropriate the resources necessary for cases to be resolved fairly, efficiently, in a timely manner. We also need to find a way to make immigration judges more independent. For far too long, immigration judges have been subjected to an ever-constantly changing set of policy priorities from both sides of the aisle and have not given enough protection from losing their jobs. Given the life and death decisions the judges have to make every day, we need to ensure they have the adequate independence to do their jobs. I hope my colleagues will work with us to address some of the areas where this bill falls short. However, at the end of the day, I think we need to start over with this one. I urge my colleagues to oppose this short-sighted bill, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Without objection, all other opening statements will be included in the record. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas to offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute.